All right, we have a lot of news to cover today and very little time to waste. I wasn't even planning on going live at all, but between Trump's visit to Florida for this new migrant detention facility, between the Senate finally passing the big ugly bill, or at least the vote to proceed, I want to hop on and break down how everything is progressing. This is going to be titled Breaking Senate Passes Ugly Bill because I'm not going to use the terminology Trump calls it. So the Senate passed it with a tie-breaking vote from J.D. Vance, but now it goes back to the House, and it doesn't seem like it passes the House in the first form. I'm going to explain. We have Republicans breaking this down. If you're watching the stream after the fact, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you never miss a stream off the bat. You can drop a like. How is everybody doing in chat right now? These live streams, honestly, help me stay sane. Now, here's the thing. Before we even run down how we got here, we already have Republicans in the House saying it likely will not pass the House in its current form. This is Andy Harris.
So where are you on the bill that came out of the Senate?
Well, you know, the rumor is that we might have a rule vote tomorrow. The rule is basically our motion to proceed. I don't think the votes are there, just like they weren't in the Senate initially until some concessions were made. I believe that the rule vote will not pass tomorrow morning, and then the Speaker's going to have to decide how he gets this back into the Senate framework, but into the House framework, I should say.
Okay, so the bill isn't officially on the desk of Donald Trump. I just want to clarify, but it passing through the Senate is not a good sign. Now the House has to rework the framework, as Andy Harris says right here. But listen to how this Maryland Republican then answers the question, are you going to vote for the bill in its current form?
And whether that's by scaling back some of the tax cuts that were added in the Senate, whether it's by going after some of the Green New Scam that the president doesn't like, we'll get there eventually, but I don't think it's going to be in the next couple days.
No, but just for clarity purpose, are you a yes or a no on the Senate bill?
Oh, I'm a no on the rule, which is the motion to proceed.
So they're voting on the motion to proceed. It's not the actual bill at this moment, but he's a no. Andy Harris, a Republican, is a no. And remember, this bill passed by one vote, you know, the first time around, the first framework. So the bill has not officially passed, not officially. And also, Donald Trump had the self-imposed deadline of July 4th, you know, the 4th of July. He was going to pass this landmark bill. This is supposed to be his domestic policy, like hallmark achievement, right? Let me point out a few things. First of all, President Biden had already passed 2 hallmark pieces of legislation by this exact point 4 years ago. I also want to point out the fact that Trump's landmark piece of legislation is wrapped up in this like luxurious wording, like it's beautiful, but it's actually just a massive, massive redistribution of wealth. You guys, somebody in chat said clickbait. It is not at all. The Senate just passed Trump's reconciliation bill with J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote, unfortunately. Now it goes back to the House, so the framework is further negotiated on. But to continue, Senate Republicans hauled President Donald Trump's big tax breaks and spending cuts bill to passage Tuesday on the narrowest of votes, pushing past opposition from Democrats and their own GOP ranks after a turbulent overnight session. They were going for hours and hours and hours. The Senate did pass it, yes, but it's back to the House now because it's a new version. The outcome capped an unusually tense weekend of work at the Capitol, the president's signature legislative priority teetering on the edge of approval or collapse. In the end, the tally was 50-50, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. 3 Republican senators, Tom Tillis, Susan Collins, and Rand Paul, joined all Democrats in voting against it. The difficulty it took for Republicans, who have held the majority in Congress, to wrestle the bill to this point is not expected to let up. Here's how it works. The package now goes back to the House, where Speaker Mike Johnson had warned senators not to deviate too far from what his chamber had already approved. But the Senate did make changes, particularly to Medicaid, risking more problems as they raced to finish by Trump's 4th of July deadline. So again, they have to continue to iterate on it. But J.D. Vance was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. And as it goes back to the House, the outcome is a pivotal moment for the president. Genuinely, it is. It's supposed to be. But it's also a pivotal moment for working class people in this country. And a pivotal moment for the richest of the rich who are now wondering, you know, will I get the tax breaks I lobbied for behind the scenes? To continue, Trump acknowledged, quote, it's very complicated stuff as he departed the White House. And as I showed you right here, members of the House Freedom Caucus are already saying they're not going to vote on this bill. So this is like the biggest like runaround we've ever seen, ever. We have people from the House now refusing to say they'll pass it. Here's another clip.
That's not going to happen. You're not even going to start looking at this until next Wednesday. And I'm just wondering, is this going to make it across the finish line?
I do believe by next Wednesday we can come to an agreement.
Next Wednesday would be July, I guess, 9th. That's way past the first deadline, number one. Number two, it's been you're 6-7 months into Trump's term. We have nothing substantial passed. We have some tiny pieces of legislation about like bathrooms or whatever, but other than that, there's nothing passed. And I don't want it to, but
we can come to an agreement. The bottom line is we can't do it in the next few days, but I do believe by next week we can come to an agreement. And again, they're going to be last-minute changes, just the way there were in the Senate. That's the way the system works. That's the way the legislative process works. And the nation and the country will be better for it.
All right, we'll keep watching.
The thing is, I mean, yes, you could say it's the way this works, but during Biden's term, he had passed 2 pieces of legislation at this point, and we hadn't had billionaires on Twitter accusing Biden of being a pedophile. We haven't had the richest person in the world lobbying against the bill after electing the person. The point is, I don't understand how they're trying to tout this as a win and saying this is the process working as intended when you have multiple Republicans voting against it. Think about how Biden passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It was called the bipartisan infrastructure bill because it was somewhat bipartisan, like 19 Republicans had signed on to make sure that it passed. You contrast this to the big ugly bill, you have Republicans voting against party lines because they find it so incredibly egregious. So the fight's not over. We have to continue to push against it. But I want to break down some more of the bill because Trump's big bill is building a police state. Meanwhile, it says the Democratic Party's floundering over immigration leaves them without an opposition strategy. And I largely agree. I mean, Obama had a really strong immigration message. President Obama in 2012, 2013, had a really strong, solid immigration message. And when we kind of lost that, it allowed Trump this opening to take the most radical stance possible. But check this out. Trump's big bill is building a police state. This comes off the back of Trump hosting an immigration roundtable today at a new Florida detention facility that they're calling Alligator Alcatraz. Imagine how disgusting that is. Alligator Alcatraz. Somebody in chat said it passed. Let me just clarify one more time. Yes, the Senate passed the reconciliation bill. Vance was the tie-breaking votes, but it now has to go back to the House where they rediscuss the framework and then they vote on whether or not to proceed. So it passed the Senate, but the way our system works, it's now thrown back to the House. And they're going to rework the framework, probably take out some of the Medicaid cuts. Hopefully, I don't know, a lot of Republicans are really uneasy. Yeah, the couch potato, thank you. It passed through the Senate, so it goes to the House now. It's a huge hurdle that they cleared, but it's not done yet. We're in the end game. Okay, sorry, to continue this. Trump's bill is building somewhat of a police state. And what I was trying to link that back to is this press conference that Trump did today, where they're actually like, they're joking about having, but they're not joking. They're talking about having alligators surrounding a migrant detention facility.
Thank you.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon.
Oh no. Trump then is going to say he's going to arrest Zoran?
Zoran Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zorhan Mandami.
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government.
Elections have consequences, man. The Democratic voters voted in the primary in New York, and the elections have consequences. You have to deal with them. If it's somebody who's going to push back against you, you can't just threaten to arrest every single governor or mayor that pushes back, whether it's, you know, Newsom, governor of California, or Zoran, who is now the nominee, the official Democratic nominee. But here's Trump this morning laughing about alligators potentially eating people.
It's the idea that if some illegal immigrants escape, they just get eaten by an alligator or a snake or something.
I guess that's the concept. This is not a nice business. I guess that's the concept.
Sorry, it's kind of hard to hear due to the airplane, but he says, I guess that's the concept regarding alligator Alcatraz. We have this video. All right, this is just like a concentration camp. Are these just like hard beds all stacked on top of each other in cages? Why are the cages necessary? And if they leave, they're alligators? Jesus Christ. This is insane. There were protesters waiting outside as well. Okay. That was me trying to lay the groundwork to just read part of this article. Give me 1 second. Trump's big bill is creating a big police state. And this is worth checking out. It says, amid the frenzy, MAGA agitprop and bald-faced lying that have marked the final stages of Donald Trump's signature domestic policy bill, can we just point out Trump's signature bill is just straight up cruel? When we're talking about this big bill, it's big, it extends the debt by an insane amount. We'll talk about that and Elon Musk's meltdown in just 1 minute. But it also just hurts a lot of the most vulnerable populations. We'll talk about that as well, the Medicaid work requirements and how this has been tried in multiple states and just creates more hurdles for people who oftentimes can't go through the hurdles. But to continue, amid all this frenzy, much of the controversy spurred by the sweeping legislation concerns its evisceration of healthcare coverage, a stunning $1 trillion in combined cuts to Medicaid, the state-based program funding healthcare access to low-income Americans and allied coverage to poor patients under the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. But the bill, which emerged out of its Senate reconciliation in a blizzard of votes to amend it on Monday, also erects a permanent immigration police state with more than $150 billion in outlays to expand the horrific surveillance, detention, and rendition regime created under the Laken-Riley Act. The measure will carry out Trump's pledge to make the terror wreaked by masked ICE officers happen on a larger scale. Pretty wild. This says, tax cuts, deportations. Now, the problem with the tax cuts are here. It's a little bit more nuanced because the tax cuts aren't new. They basically extend Donald Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but the way they extend them is regressive rather than progressive. A regressive tax means it's not progressive. It goes backwards, and it redistributes wealth from low-income Americans to high-income Americans. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act has major tax cuts for the richest of the rich, for large corporations. And then Trump is also putting in these like no tax on tips, but the tax cuts are permanent for the richest of the rich, meaning for the next decade, for the next 2 decades, the tax cuts for the richest are permanent. They save $3, $5, $10 million on their tax bill. Meanwhile, the taxes expire on middle and low income earners. So like imagine that. It's kind of just like waving a $100 bill short term, but then giving long term a lot of money to the richest of the rich. You can't have tax cuts extending that are permanent for rich people, and then they just, expire after 1 or 2 years. It's kind of just a facade, right? Someone said tax cuts, thumbs down. I mean, here's the thing. Tax cuts could be good if they're on the right class of people. If they're on upper class to the richest of the rich, those tax cuts can then be used to directly fund social services. And there necessarily have to be taxes on everybody, but it should be proportional, is the argument that we make. Proportional taxes. And right now it's disproportionately affecting like middle and lower income people, while a lot of the richest of the rich aren't paying their fair share. Okay, to continue, extend big tax cuts. After taking office in 2017, Trump signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That's what I was talking about. Those provisions are set to expire, but this bill makes them permanent. But here's the thing, as I was saying, a lot of the permanent ones are only for the richest corporations, and they expire for individuals. And then they're expiring cutting tax on tips or overtime, which could be solid, but it's just, why not make these permanent and then make the ones on the richest of the rich expire? Money for mass deportations and a border wall. As a part of Trump's plan, and also when it comes to no tax on tips, I feel like Medicaid is maybe more important, but money for mass deportations and a border wall. As part of Trump's plan to remove undocumented immigrants from the country, Immigration and Customs Enforcement will receive $45 billion for detention facilities, $14 billion for deportation operations, and billions of dollars more to hire an additional 10,000 new agents by 2029. Just sounds quite dystopian, right? More than $50 billion is allocated for the construction of the new border fortification. Slashing Medicaid and food stamps then happens next. Republicans have attempted to cut down the bill's cost by slashing two major federal safety net programs: Medicaid, which provides health care to poor and disabled Americans, and Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAPs, or food assistance, which helps people afford groceries. Both are in for funding cuts. And then remember, earlier today, Donald Trump, when talking about waste, fraud, and abuse, said maybe Doge goes after Elon Musk, and then he tweeted out, sorry, there's a lot to go through. He then tweeted out, Elon Musk knew long before he so strongly endorsed me for president that I was strongly against the EV mandate. It is ridiculous and was always a major part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everyone should be forced to own one. Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back to South Africa. He's like one step away from telling Trump to go back to South Africa. Did you guys see this? No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production. We would save a fortune. So Trump is talking about this, then he's spending a fortune on a surveillance state in America. One more time, we just got a bunch of new people in chat asking, oh, so it passed. Essentially, it passed the Senate, but it still is going back to the House. To recap, Senate Republicans hauled President Trump's landmark bill, the big tax breaks and spending cuts bill, to passage Tuesday on the narrowest of votes, with J.D. Vance being the 50-50 tiebreaker. But now it goes back to the House. It goes back to the House for the next vote. The difficulty it took for Republicans, who have held the majority in Congress, is not expected to let up. The package now goes back to the House, where Speaker Mike Johnson had warned senators not to deviate too far from what his chamber had previously approved. So the outcome is a pivotal moment, and this one big beautiful bill act is honestly disgusting. Let me replay this clip of Republican Andy Harris saying it's not going to pass right away. Listen to this question right here.
Couple days.
No, but just for clarity purpose, are you a yes or a no on the Senate bill?
Oh, I'm a no on the rule, which is the motion to proceed to taking a vote on the Senate bill.
He's not even going to vote on the motion to proceed to take a vote on the Senate bill because they're going to rework it in their own framework. I mean, it is an absolute mess. And after J.D. Vance had to be the tie-breaking vote, despite Republicans having 54 senators right now, right? They should be able to have 54 votes. J.D. Vance had to be the tie-breaking vote. Think about how many times Joe Biden got Republicans to sign on to his legislation. I mean, if I look this up, He got 19 Republicans to sign on to the bipartisan infrastructure, and then more Republicans that didn't sign on took credit for it. So like Lauren Boebert, who's in the House, later on was like, we passed this infrastructure bill, even though Biden was the one who passed it with his team and the help of 19 Republicans. The point I was trying to make is that Trump has to beg and can't even get Republicans to sign on to his bills because they're so shitty. Meanwhile, Biden was able to do it with rather a lot of ease. How many times did we say vote blue? Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a lot before the election. Voting blue would have saved a lot of strain, not only for like, you know, vulnerable Americans on Medicaid, but for Ukrainians, for Palestinians, I would argue for the citizens of Israel, the citizens of Iran. I mean, there would be a lot of pain. I can almost guarantee Kamala would have reworked the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action framework, which is the Iran nuclear deal, rather than just striking and striking and striking. But very quickly, if you want to help boost the message of this stream, make sure you drop a like. We're almost at 10,000 viewers, and we're almost at 4,000 likes. It would be very helpful. But one more time, yeah, I mean, here's Andy Harris saying no. He's from Maryland. He says no, he doesn't think it's going to pass. So here's the problem one more time. The permanent extension of Trump's 2017 tax cuts, that's what's scary. The permanence of them. Then there's like temporary tax breaks for lower income people with major reductions to Medicaid and food assistance. And then when you do the math, the major reductions to Medicaid and food assistance will cost families more than any sort of tax cuts. And then all of the tax cuts are to fund Elon Musk's new yachts and $175 billion in border security, $150 billion in defense, $46 billion in border barriers, which, like, yeah, we need some level of defense spending, but I don't know if we need to be redistributing wealth in this manner. Robert, what's up? He said, just joined. What's going on? The Senate passed the bill. Now it goes back to the House. The House is expected to cut down some of the Medicaid cuts because they are aggressive right now. And a lot of people in the House are saying we can't vote to proceed in its current format. So as this bill continues to progress, we are going to be relentlessly covering it. At the same time, this bill is expanding a massive police state throughout the country. The scale of the proposed increases in ICE funding alone would make for a grim dystopian reading. As Don Moynihan notes, ICE's annual budget for the detentions would skyrocket from $3.4 billion in the present fiscal year to $45 billion. Dude, why does ICE funding, what kind of dystopian propaganda state are we trying to create by 2029? Yo, $3.4 billion to $45 billion per fiscal year, a 365% increase, and a figure that outstrips the combined federal funding of all 50 prisons. Here, there are some additional spending comparisons. To continue, the scale of the proposed increases create a detention state that is bigger than all of the federal funding of prisons. The ICE detention budget is larger than the total budget for USAID. Is larger than the total budget for USAID used to be. The ICE detention budget increase is larger than cuts in education or for SNAP in the Big Beautiful Bill. It's larger to the cuts to the NIH, larger than the cuts to the CDC and cancer research combined. It is on the scale of the type of the supplemental budget that the U.S. passed when engaged in foreign wars. We are now spending foreign war level amounts of money on ICE raids. And this comes at a time when Trump is opening up Alligator Alcatraz, which is this new prison where alligators are going to be like taking care of migrants in this theoretical world. And at a time when ICE is already targeting people in the worst spots. Listen, the easiest concession to make is if you want to target criminals, sure. If you want to target people who are here and they are here illegally, they have been, and they've committed repeated crimes, and you give them due process, and you find out in a court that they have repeatedly done something horrific. Like if somebody gets in a drunk driving accident and kills 3 people, and they were here illegally, no one in chat's going to say that this is somebody who's like a necessary member of society. But when you're raiding nail salons, elementary schools, when you're targeting courtrooms, and you're targeting people who are trying to be productive members of society in the best way, then that's different. When you're using ICE to relentlessly and aggressively target people in like majority Latino communities, then that is disgusting. And that's an important distinction to draw. Matthew Kim says, we are cooked. Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, if we vote in the midterms, if we vote a shit ton in the midterms, everyone in chat is registered to vote, right? The link is as simple as just vote.org. Let me just drop it a few times. It's just as simple as that. I mean, we do have a diverse amount of age in our audience. We have people who are younger, people who have voted for many elections. I'm sure many of you are registered. But the cool thing is we can register a lot of new young voters as the next midterms kind of creep around. We're still about a year out. So really quickly, make sure you drop a like on the stream. Make sure you're subscribed to the Mockler channel. To continue, the massive giveaways are earmarked for an agency that's shown a decidedly cursory regard for the fundamental protections afforded to all Americans. Very true. Basically, we're giving a lot of money to an agency that shows a complete disregard for our most fundamental rights, such as due process, such as the right to a trial, the right not to be torn out of our bed at night. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this bill, and we should be placing the pressure in the right place. For example, it's really hard because the entire bill is just such a terrible bill. But if I were to open up a new notepad, and if I were to title this notepad, basically, Trump's ugly bill, there are a few sections. Massive debt increase. This is the problem that Elon Musk points out. This is also Thomas, or no, I guess we can use Tillis's problem. Okay, but also massive immigration state, huge increases to ICE funding. Someone was mentioning in chat earlier that we should do a deep dive on the changes to elections. Have you guys in chat heard about this? There is a change to election integrity happening with these. Of course, slashing of Medicaid and the redistribution of wealth. Sorry, I can't type. The redistribution of wealth. Look at, we literally just typed all of these things in one setting. How do we just type all of these things in one setting? So very quickly, we have the massive debt increase, massive immigration state, changes to election integrity, slashing of Medicaid, redistribution of wealth. I'm missing some things, right? I'm missing a lot of things. Oh, yeah. A lot of changes to housing and urban development. I also think it codifies a lot of Elon Musk's proposed slashes. Let's continue, though. Let's continue to read. Cuts to green energy. Okay, this brings us here perfectly. The bill will phase out many tax incentives created by Congress during Joe Biden's presidency meant to encourage consumers and businesses to use electric vehicles. You know what would be good? Since we have 9,000 people here, I'm going to announce that Chris Mowry, contributor Chris and I are going to start doing some live streams together in studio. What if we had maybe a physical version of the bill or a version on screen, and we went through and we researched every single facet of the bill and created a document that is accessible to everybody that is kind of a condensed version of the 940 pages? Because what I have on screen right now, this article, is a little bit too condensed. Look at this. It's like we need more than one paragraph about the cuts to green energy. We need to know the exact. Okay, here we go. Trump's tax bill to cost 830,000 jobs and drive up bills. Okay. I mean, we covered this, but I don't have it all written down in one concise place. And what I find with this article here is that it's just a bit too short. We need some depth. Okay, state and local tax relief. One of the thorniest issues the bill addresses is how much relief to provide from state and local taxes. By the way, I'm eternally grateful for all of you guys that are here. Thank you for being in chat. You know, we're going to cover every single step of the bill. Someone in chat said, I knew this would pass. Let me point out, it hasn't officially passed yet. Just because the Senate passed it with Vance's tie-breaking vote doesn't mean it's on the president's desk yet. It still has to go back to the House, and they are going to rediscuss it. Oh, we're now having McGovern making predictions about this. House Rules Committee meets on Senate-passed GOP tax and spending bill. This is going to be good. On screen now is Jim McGovern, a Democrat from Massachusetts.
And let me make a prediction. If this ugly bill passes, it's going to get a lot uglier when people realize what's in it. And not even Donald Trump's new $300 bottle of cologne will cover the stench. This bill will hurt people in every congressional district in this country. And Republicans are racing to get it passed before the American people can figure out what's in it. There's no real deadline. There's no real deadline that we're working against. None. July 4th is just an arbitrary marker that Trump made up.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier in the stream, way earlier, but Trump said he wanted this passed by July 4th. Not happening. He always sets these arbitrary deadlines against himself, and then he never meets the arbitrary deadlines. This dude is his own worst enemy. He'll be like, this is going to be done within 2 weeks, and it has to, or all hell will break loose. And then 2 weeks passes, and he'll just like be silent about it. Why do you set these arbitrary deadlines against yourself?
He wants a victory lap on Friday, just weeks after throwing himself a military birthday parade, complete with tanks rolling down Constitution Avenue, one that cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. He now wants to have a 4th of July signing ceremony at the White House for this dumpster fire of a bill. We're rushing, not because the country demands it, but because he wants to throw himself yet another party. This isn't policy, it's ego management.
Yep, it's not policy, it's ego management. We wrote this article today. It reads, Elon paid millions for Trump to deport him. No refunds. Imagine paying like $200 million, buying Twitter, and doing all of this only for the guy to stand on the White House lawn that you helped elect and say, maybe we should deport him. Elon paid millions for Trump to deport him. Look at what we wrote this morning. And very quickly, make sure you subscribe. Are you guys subscribed to the Substack in chat? It's free. Just subscribe to the Mockler newsletter. This newsletter keeps you up to date on Mockler Media and the company we're building. We are watching two uniquely corrupt men try to leverage all of the corrupt tools at their disposal to inflict maximum damage on each other. Trump is threatening to leverage the executive branch to tear away Elon's contracts and, I guess, his citizenship. Elon is threatening to leverage his vast wealth to primary Republicans and is using his ownership of X to dominate the attention economy. Someone in chat said, how do I subscribe? Click on the link that you see in chat from my name. Oh shit, I dropped my pen. Let me pin this. Okay, to continue. Now, Donald Trump just refused to rule out deporting Elon Musk. Standing on the White House lawn, moments before boarding Air Force One to visit Alligator Alcatraz, Trump said, I don't know, I'll have to take a look, in response to the question, should Elon be deported? And, you know, again, these are two men who are highly corrupt, leveraging all the corrupt avenues they have, whether it's the executive branch for Trump or Elon Musk, it's the attention economy, to try to just hurt each other, to try to inflict maximum damage. Regarding Alligator Alcatraz, look at this. I would feel comfortable calling this a concentration camp. Totally comfortable calling this a concentration camp. And that's verbiage that we should use, especially when you're pulling people from nail salons and putting them there.
And listen to this quote from Senator Murkowski, who just caved and voted for this bill.
One more time. This is Jim McGovern, of Massachusetts. He's a really solid like political knife fighter.
And listen to this quote from Senator Murkowski, who just caved and voted for this bill. And you got to love this. She said, quote, "My hope is that the House is going to look at this and recognize that we're not there yet," end quote. I mean, my question to her is, if you really believe that, then why the hell did you vote for this bill? It doesn't make any sense. It's a dereliction of your duty as a United States Senator and as a representative for the people in Alaska. I mean, when was the last time this current House of Representatives has fixed or solved anything? I mean, where have you been, Senator Murkowski? This Republican House is dysfunction on steroids. And let me say to my Republican friends, I understand that the Senate just jammed you, but you don't have to be complicit. I get it. I know the Republican leadership and Trump don't want scrutiny. They don't want the American people to understand what's really happening here. This bill is a middle finger to millions of Americans. It isn't just a bad bill, it is the most dangerous piece of legislation in modern history. Dangerous because of the very real damage it will do to real people, sick people, hungry kids, families just scraping by. If this is Republicans' top legislative priority this Congress, it tells us everything about where your values lie. And it's not with working families, not with struggling communities, but with mega corporations, billionaires, and Donald Trump. Madam Chair.
Jim McGovern, absolutely cooking. We should have him on the show afterwards. Oh, he kept going. It's going viral. This is the type of stuff that we need to be boosting and getting out there to win in the information sphere. I feel like he speaks in a very relatable way. Massachusetts he's from.
Truly, I've never seen anything like this in my life. The kind of petrified fealty we're seeing on the right. Scared by a man who called voting against this bill the ultimate betrayal. Like, what kind of president talks like that? That's the language of dictators, not the language of a president. But let me remind you all of something. The people you should be afraid of, betraying are not in the White House or dining at Mar-a-Lago. They're back home.
Yeah?
The people in Boone, North Carolina, in Moorhead, Minnesota, in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
That's the problem with the way the system's set up. It seems like a lot of Republicans don't even care as much about their constituents or their feelings as they care about their big donors. So at the end of the day, these Republicans vote for a bill that pleases the richest of the rich, which allows them access to power, while at the same time kind of stabbing their constituents in the back. But who cares when you're Marjorie Taylor Greene and you don't really go visit your district for one-on-one meetings, you just do it for like media opportunities. Like, what are Marjorie Taylor Greene's interactions like when she goes back to her district, right? Is she having like one-on-one connections? Is she like deeply charismatic off camera?
In Austin, Texas, in Salem, Indiana, in Jamestown, New York, in Tifton, Georgia, in Abington, Virginia, in Noonan, Georgia. They're the ones who hired you. And if you vote for this bill, you're voting to screw them over. Plain and simple. When their kids go hungry, when their health care is gone, when their energy bills skyrocket, when they watch big oil rake in profits while they get pink slips, when they realize that billionaires like Jeff Bezos are getting 40 times the tax breaks that they're getting, when they watch the wealthy get richer and they're left behind, they are going to feel the pain that you brought on them. And I think you're going to see that reflected in the next election. The American people are watching. They deserve better than this. They deserve certainly better than this cowardice, better than this cruelty, better than this betrayal. So I'm asking all of you to have a spine, find your moral compass, vote no on this bill, and come up with something better. There's still time. Work with us on tax relief for people who are not making millions and billions of dollars. Let's go back to the drawing board.
Oh my. Yeah, Republicans are not going to do that. You think Republicans are going to be like, you made a really good point. Maybe we should help the working class for once. Here's Hakeem Jeffries saying the same exact thing. Sorry, I'm having to make sure I had the right clip. Here's Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Leader, saying the exact same thing as this is kicked back to the House.
Why would any so-called traditional Republican, particularly those who are
sorry, the audio on this clip's
in
weird.
swing seats all across America, vote for a bill that will aggressively and actively hurt their constituents?
I mean, yeah, Someone in chat said, did the bill completely pass? No, the bill passed through the Senate. Now it gets kicked back to the House. Hakeem Jeffries has been doing a better job. I think Democrats need to iterate a bit on the big letters on a board. Yes, it works. Yes, it's good. Yes, it's punchy. But how many times have Democrats brought to Congress a big board with big letters on it and numbers and everything and think that fixes everything? $4 trillion. That doesn't mean anything to like the average American. I mean,
Senate Republican bill that's been sent back over to the House doesn't make anything better in an already flawed bill that emerged in late May from the House of Representatives and limped over to the Senate by a single vote. Why?
What would you guys think about a structure where only red states feel the effects of the red president's bills, right? Or I guess a lot of you guys probably live in red states. So only red states are able to feel this. Jared, thank you so much. So with it going back to the House, is Marjorie Taylor Greene going to put her money where her mouth is and vote against it now that she knows what's in it, like she said? That is very, very true. Marjorie Taylor Greene was super pissed off because in this bill, what has happened is, there is this provision that says AI can't be regulated on a state-by-state basis. AI can only be regulated federally. And that goes against the entire Republican view of states' rights. So is Marjorie Taylor Greene going to begin to fight back? Let me pull this up 1 second. To continue here. How every senator voted on the GOP mega bill. Damn. So now that J.D. Vance was the tie-breaking vote, it goes back to the Senate again. Or sorry, it goes back to the House. I misspoke. So the House passed its own version of the legislation in May, but the Senate changed several critical provisions, and the final package will need to go back to the House for approval. J.D. Vance was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. Again, I keep making the same point regarding this. President Biden was able to pass hallmark legislation, like huge legislation, and he didn't have to have, like, he was able to get Republicans on his side. Do you guys remember when Joe Biden passed the bipartisan infrastructure legislation and then 19 Republicans signed onto it, but then a bunch of other Republicans began to take credit for it? So like Lauren Boebert took credit for it. I'm pretty sure Marjorie at one point took credit for the bill that Biden passed. Oh, I miss this era. I do miss this era. Biden calls out Republicans who took credit.
President Biden's in full campaign season, right?
Oh, that aged poorly. Okay. President Biden criticized Republican lawmakers who voted against the bipartisan infrastructure bill, yet have taken credit for the projects. The point is, Donald Trump can't get shit passed. He has to squeeze votes through. Meanwhile, Biden, due to his experience in Congress and his ability to actually negotiate, was able to do this. For all the people just joining, the Senate has passed this bill, but now it goes back to the House. I want to keep reiterating that because a lot of people in chat are saying it's over, it's completely over. No, here is Representative Andy Harris. I keep playing this clip saying he's not going to vote for the bill in its current form.
No, but just for clarity purpose, are you a yes or a no on the Senate bill?
Oh, I'm a no on the rule, which is the motion to proceed to taking a vote on the Senate.
This dude doesn't even want to take a vote on it in its current form. It's not good that it passed the Senate, but it is not entirely over. Ooh. Here's a clip of Boyle saying this would be the greatest loss of healthcare for Americans in history.
I think this will come down to one vote yet again
whether or not this becomes law. And if it does, it will be the greatest loss of health care in American history. Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has confirmed 17 million Americans. And let me explain how they arrive at that number. Roughly half of that is due to the largest Medicaid cuts in American history. But another half of it...
Oh, wait. Sorry. Can you guys hear the screen? My bad. Somebody in chat just asked, I'm confused why they keep pushing that undocumented workers are on Medicare and Medicaid. The reason why is because that gives them the pretext to then start cutting it. If they can make it so people don't believe that Medicare and Medicaid are legit, they can then begin to cut it and hope that they can pull the wool over people's eyes. And it's not true. It's already illegal. But okay, let me replay this now that you guys can see. My bad.
Vote in the Senate. I think this will come down to one vote yet again, whether or not this becomes law. And if it does, it will be the greatest loss of health care in American history. Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has confirmed 17 million Americans. And let me explain how they arrive at that number. Roughly half of that is due to the largest Medicaid cuts in American history. But another half of it is due to changes and allowing certain tax credits and provisions to expire in the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. I give the other side credit. They have been working like hell for 15 years to do away with Obamacare. This is the closest that they've ever come.
That was the same thought I had when I saw the article this morning that the Senate had passed it. I was like, they've been trying to do this for so long, and they finally got it. Can I also point out how sad it is that the party of fiscal responsibility is now burdening the country with so much debt that we may never, ever get out of it? By the way, if you're watching the stream, make sure to drop a like. Subscribe to the Substack. It really does help out. But the 2028 Democratic nominee better be relentlessly mentioning this exact bill when he's running against J.D. Vance, if he's running against J.D. Vance at that point.
Millions and millions today currently on Obamacare will lose it if this becomes law.
Yep.
And that's not all. As we confirmed again from CBO a few weeks ago, due to the massive increase in deficit spending in this bill, there have to be 4% Medicare cuts. That's over $500 billion.
There have to be. Republicans still deny it. They have their head buried in the sand. Here's Senator John Ossoff explaining the Medicare cuts further.
Madam President, I call up my amendment 2696 and ask that it be reported by number.
He was trying to pass an amendment to block the Obamacare cuts.
The clerk will report.
The senator from Georgia offers an amendment number 2696 to amendment number 2360.
Madam President, instead of adding trillions to the debt and tax cuts for the rich while destroying Medicaid and renewable energy, I propose we help our constituents afford health insurance. If we allow...
That's pretty radical, man. That's communist.
I propose we help our constituents afford health insurance. If we allow Affordable Care Act benefits to expire, as this bill would, more than 1 million Georgians will pay more for health insurance next year. A family of 4 in Clayton County making $65,000 a year, that's a $2,600 increase. Dougherty County, $2,200. Chattahoochee County, $2,300. Augusta-Richmond County, $2,600. Liberty County, $2,600. Macon-Bibb County, $2,700. The AJC, our paper, reports 300,000 Georgians would lose insurance altogether. And that's on top of the cuts to Medicaid and hospitals. A vote against this amendment is a vote to gut the Affordable Care Act and raise health insurance premiums. I urge a yes vote.
We can add this all to the list. When we were writing this list earlier, we were saying there's so much wrong with the bill, it's almost hard to write it out. But so far, even beyond the massive debt increase, which is like the big headline, along with the slashes to Medicaid and the redistribution of wealth, we also have massive cuts to green energy, which will cost 833,000 jobs. Many unions have come out against this exact thing. Changes to housing and urban development, which we're doing a stream on. And then it creates a massive immigration state. That's something that's a little bit under talked about, but the actual legitimate immigration state. Now that we have so many people, we currently have a few hundred on the Substack, and we just hit 11,000 on the YouTube. If you're on the YouTube, go subscribe to the Adam Mockler Substack. It means the world. We're currently writing a newsletter. We're building a newsletter. We wrote one today titled "Elon Paid Millions for Trump to Deport Him," which is true. You can find it in chat right here. Okay, but to continue. The massive immigration state is one of the wildest pieces. Now that we have so many people watching, I want to go back and talk about this piece right here. Just read this number. The scale of the proposed increases in the ICE funding alone would make for a grim dystopian reading. ICE's current annual budget for detentions is $3.4 billion per year. $3.4 billion per year, all right? The proposed increase is to $45 billion per year by 2029. Think about that increase. Think about what we're already seeing happen with ICE. I'm sorry, let me plug my phone in. And think about what that would end up doing, what that would end up looking like. An increase of that scale. Boom. These massive giveaways are earmarked for an agency that's already shown just disregard, a complete blatant disregard for the fundamental protections afforded to all Americans. Building out the detention capacity of U.S. immigration enforcement by nearly a fourfold factor would elevate the ghoulish white nationalist policies of Stephen Miller, and then they would exist long beyond him being gone. Here's McGovern continuing to go off.
And listen to this quote from Senator Murkowski, who just...
Wait a second, sorry. Boom.
Break. This bill will kill thousands of clean energy jobs and raise Americans' energy rates while rewarding big oil with billions in subsidies. Because Republicans think welfare is okay if you're ExxonMobil, but not if you're a family struggling to pay your skyrocketing power bill, or a grandma who stays in assisted living, or our parents struggling to put food on the table. It gives $150 billion more to the Pentagon. Not for peace or security, but to line the pockets of defense contractors. This is on top of record levels of defense spending that we already provide the Pentagon in our annual spending bills. For all you budget hawks out there, let me ask you, when was the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? The answer is never. You're worried about someone on SNAP who gets an average of $2 per meal, might get $2.75 per meal, but you couldn't care less when millions of dollars are wasted by defense contractors and cost overruns.
Yep, and Donald Trump is having parades. Donald Trump is spending money in the worst ways possible. On like alligator Alcatraz. Trump was in Florida just a bit ago talking about alligator Alcatraz. This is a video of it right here on the YouTube stream. Absolutely disgusting display. Oh, Trump just sent out a long Truth Social post. Multiple of them. All right, let's read what these say. Lord have mercy. This one says, almost all of our great Republicans in the United States Senate have passed our one big beautiful bill. It is no longer a House bill or a Senate bill. It's everyone's bill. I mean, when you say almost all of our great Republicans, that's kind of a stretch. What do they have, 54 senators, and J.D. Vance had to be the tie-breaking vote? He says there's so much to be proud of. Is there? I mean, there's a lot to be proud of if you're like an evil ghoul who wants people to have Medicaid taken away. But the biggest winner of them all will be the American people, who will have permanently lower taxes. That's not even true. The permanently lower taxes happen for the richest of the rich. By the way, check out the Substack link. I'm dropping it below on YouTube. Dude, before I even read this, let me just tell you, this is a complete inverse of reality right here. He's saying a few things. The biggest winner will be the American people. Wrong. He then says, additionally, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security are not being cut. They absolutely are, but are being strengthened and protected from the radical, destructive Democrats by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. Someone in chat just a minute ago asked the question, why do they keep claiming immigrants are, on Medicaid so much? It's because they use that as a pretext to then justify trying to cut Medicaid and Medicare. If you're on Substack, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to hop back on the YouTube stream because my phone is now on 2%. So, to continue, make sure you check out the Substack. And to continue, this says, our country is going to explode with massive growth. Massive growth in the debt? Is that what you're talking about? Even more so than since I was already reelected. Is he still talking about the debt? The one big beautiful bill sets the United States down a fiscal path by greatly reducing our federal debt. Lord have mercy. I'm expecting the next paragraph to be like, I then look in the mirror and I see a 6'2", chiseled jaw, 6'5", blonde, chiseled jaw warrior with a six-pack. Like, what reality is this guy living in? Whatever it is, it's not the same reality that this bill exists in.
All right, so Elon Musk had some pretty harsh words for the House Freedom Caucus. He said the following. He said, how could you call yourself the Freedom Caucus if you vote for a debt slavery bill with the biggest debt ceiling increase in history? What do you say to Mr. Musk?
Well, that's exactly why a group of us are not going to vote to advance the bill until we iron out some of the deficit problems with the bills. And look, Mr. Musk is right. We cannot sustain these deficits. He understands finances. He understands debts and deficits. And we have to make further progress. And I believe the Freedom Caucus will take the lead in making that further progress.
The Freedom Caucus will certainly take the lead. I mean, honestly, I'll take it if they're going to vote against this. But we just keep doing this song and dance over and over. So again, despite the bill passing through the Senate with J.D. Vance bringing the tie-breaking vote, the House still has to vote to even proceed on the Senate's version of the bill. And the Senate's version of the bill was pretty far from the original version passed by the House. Trump's one big beautiful bill, according to Armin Domilewski, Trump's one big beautiful bill will drive up energy costs by as much as 30% in every single state in America. Senate bill would increase electricity prices for every state. My bill's already going up. Wyoming, Illinois, New Mexico. Are there any good things about this? Like the only way you benefit from this bill is if you're an ICE agent, is if you're a billionaire, is if you are a part of big oil, like if you're a part of big electricity. Is Trump taking like donations from huge electricity people? Look at all of these states have an increase in electricity. What do you guys think about only states that vote red? Okay, how about this? Not even states that vote red. Only red districts get to feel the effects of this bill, and blue districts, blue cities, only feel the effects of bills that the Democrats pass. I feel like blue cities would end up being very accessible, would end up having a lot of social safety nets, and the red cities, a massive upwards regressive redistribution of wealth, as we're already seeing now. Once rivals, Trump and DeSantis team up to open Florida's Alligator Alcatraz. We may perhaps live in the worst possible reality. Dotes on Dots sent 5 out of Mockler memberships. Thank you so much. I appreciate that more than you know. Let's read chat for a minute. Would love that only red states get to feel this BBB. I don't know, I grew up in Indiana. My family's all in Indiana, so I don't know about that. But maybe red districts. But also, I have family members in red districts, despite them being blue voters, so... Yeah, obviously what I'm describing is incredibly divisive. It's sort of tongue-in-cheek. We're not actually going to have divided bills for divided districts. What I'm saying is purely tongue-in-cheek. It's not a legit proposal, but people in chat are saying that I'm being highly divisive. Watch the Humanity Bureau. It seemed like a joke, but now it seems like a chillingly realistic possibility. Just months after Donald Trump's admin quietly moved to undercut a hardline immigration push by Ron DeSantis, the two Republican rivals appeared side by sides in the Everglades for this new migrant detention center. Just disgusting.
Thank you.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City. Your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zorhan Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City.
Is that Benny Johnson asking the question? It has to be. That is definitely Benny Johnson asking the question. Anybody else hear that? Hannah Montan, is there anything we can do right now? I feel like all we can do is sit by and watch as the country gets destroyed. There is a center, there's a number you can call that connects you to your local representative, and you can call them. You can email, you can call, we can protest. Maybe we do more No Kings protests. There are many different ways we can have our voice heard. Let me pull up this call center line. I don't have it. I should probably have it written down. And let me pin it. Boom, boom. It's called the U.S. Capitol Switchboard. Sorry, that took me way longer than it should have to find. Yeah, there you go. It's in chat. But to continue, Donald Trump is asked questions by Benny Johnson. There's another big protest on July 4th, apparently.
Yeah.
Claire Gall with Wink News in Fort Myers. What is your direction to ICE when it comes to arresting farm workers here illegally, other workers in industries that are pretty critical to Florida's economy?
Yeah. Well, we're very much cognizant of that, and as you know, I won the farmers by 92%, and I'm not going to be abandoning my farmers. We were strong on the borders, but we're also strong for the farmers and for others in the hotel industry, et cetera. You know, we have similar situations. And Christy and I, and we'll be working with Ron and a lot of the states. We're going to work something where the farmers can be responsible for some of the people that have, and they have people around for 10, 15 years that they know very well. We're going to put them responsible and we're going to issue a form of a card or document, and the farmer's going to be responsible for these people. They're not going to have citizenship, but they'll be working, they'll be paying taxes. We need to get our farmers the people they need. Otherwise, our farmers aren't going to be able to do their land.
That is Trump backtracking. Next level, F around, find out.
Yep. How many more facilities like this do you feel that the country needs in order to enact your agenda?
Oh, he's not going to give a concrete answer. He's going to be like, well, as many as it takes. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Mass deportations.
Well, I think we'd like to see them in many states.
I haven't even seen this clip. It's just so obvious what he does.
Really, many states.
Many states. You know what I realized? The media kind of like eggs him on too. So they'll ask very leading questions. They'll be like, would you deport Elon Musk? And he's like, possibly, I'll think about it. They're like, would you throw Elon Musk in an incinerator on camera? He's like, I wouldn't rule it out. Like, they just egg him on.
When I know Ron's doing a second one, at least a second one, and probably a couple of more. And, you know, at some point, they might morph into a system where you're going to keep it for a long time. You know, it's not that far away from jails that take years to build, and money is spent and wasted. And, you know, like the railway that they have in California that costs like 40 times more than it was supposed to cost. The same things happens with prisons. You look at this in a short period of time, Ron, James, and some of the people that really worked on it along with our people, they did this in less than a week. And you look at it, it's incredible. The incredible thing is picking the site, because the site...
It's incredibly dangerous. They're bragging. Lord have mercy. Here's what he's bragging about. That he put together this migrant detention center in less than a week, and now they're going to be stacking people in en masse into this. That's what he's bragging about. Don't you want to put some like thought behind it? Maybe not just name it Alligator Alcatraz. Now, partially, this could be for Trump to control the headlines. I will concede this could be for Trump to control the headlines. Someone said, Elon is right, we need a third party. Maybe, but not the way Elon Musk is talking about it. I wouldn't trust him. But either way, I'm going to go make some videos, cover some news for the rest of the day, take some meetings. We are continuing to build Mockler Media. I love and appreciate all of you more than you know. We are building something amazing. Someone in chat said Adam is wrong. Without context, I don't know what that means, but I love all of you. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you subscribe below to never miss a stream. Subscribe to the Substack in the description. So the Substack was the newsletter. You'll get it in your email. And peace out, everybody.